The streets of Atlanta don't just hum with energy, they pulse like a living, breathing organism that thrives on whispers. The heavy August air feels sticky with secrets, and when the neon signs begin to fade and the last club doors slam shut, that's when the truth nobody wants exposed begins to leak out. On this night, the rumor that bled through the city wasn't about politics, or traffic, or even the music blasting from passing cars. It was about two names that, on the surface, should have never collided in the same story: Tamar Braxton and Mendeecees Harris. A harmless Saturday night of celebration took a sudden, violent turn that by dawn had left one of R&B's most recognized voices bloodied, bruised, and broken, with teeth knocked from her mouth and a face swollen beyond recognition. And in the haze of her horror, one question rattled through Atlanta like a drumbeat: what exactly happened between Tamar and Mendeecees in the hours nobody saw? The night began so gently it could almost be laughed off. Tamar Braxton, who has always mixed glamour with chaos, planned nothing more than a simple dinner with her longtime friend, Funky Dineva, the outspoken blogger who has built his reputation on equal parts wit, gossip, and shameless provocation. They chose Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, a high-end stop where celebrities post filtered photos with wine glasses and slide out before midnight. They laughed, they posed, they toasted. On the surface, it was nothing more than another birthday dinner, a night too routine to ever make headlines. But anyone who knows Atlanta nightlife knows dinner is rarely the end. It's the warm-up. The real stories begin after the plates are cleared, when the music grows louder and the cameras go dark. By the time Tamar walked into the neon-lit V12 lounge on Spring Street, the city's energy shifted around her. Witnesses said she didn't move like she had just finished a quiet dinner, she moved like someone bracing for trouble, ready to let the night rewrite itself. And that's when Mendeecees Harris stepped onto the scene. In Atlanta, his presence is never subtle. Husband to Yandy Smith, father, reality television fixture, his name itself is a headline. For years, fans have dissected his loyalty, mocked his silence, and dragged his choices through gossip blogs. Yet in that lounge, all of his past controversies blurred into the background. All eyes shifted as he and Tamar gravitated toward one another, their heads bent close in whispers that no one else could catch. Eyewitnesses swore they laughed together, their hands brushing one another by accident too many times to feel innocent. The way they leaned into each other's space created the kind of tension that Atlanta thrives on. To some, it looked like business. To others, it looked like sparks. Either way, it looked dangerous. By 1 in the morning, when most of the lounge began thinning out, the two of them remained locked in their private bubble. The whispers only grew louder. Multiple witnesses later swore they saw Tamar and Mendeecees leave together, slipping into the thick southern night like shadows with something to conceal. And that alone was enough to send the city spinning. In Atlanta, a man tethered to Yandy Smith being seen with Tamar Braxton past midnight wasn't going to stay quiet. The streets carry stories faster than the news, and this one carried all the markings of betrayal. But the real shift came after they left. Because Atlanta doesn't stop at the exit. There's always an after-party. And that's where stories become scandals. Funky Dineva would later admit that a car dropped Tamar off at her home. He claimed he didn't go inside, that he split off to meet someone else, as if to distance himself from what unfolded next. But his explanation didn't wash away suspicion, it only deepened it. If he didn't stay, then who did? If Mendeecees truly followed Tamar into her home, if she opened her door that night to continue the celebration, then her house became the last place she was seen before her bloody morning. Hours later, the world would wake to her chilling confessions, that she had woken up drenched in her own blood, her nose shattered, teeth missing, her memory fractured. She admitted she barely felt alive, barely conscious, barely human. It was a friend, horrified at the sight, who found her in that state. And perhaps most terrifying of all, Tamar confessed she didn't remember what had happened to her. Imagine that, a world-famous voice, stripped of clarity, unable to recall how a night of laughter ended in screams. That silence, that blank space where the truth should have been, left Atlanta ravenous. If this was just an accident, why didn't Tamar explain it? If she tripped, if she slipped, if it was a harmless fall, why not protect her reputation? Why not clear Mendeecees' name immediately? Instead, her silence was louder than her pain, and in that silence, fans and foes alike filled in the blanks themselves. And the blank most people sketched in, that Yandy Smith had found out. And when Yandy finds out, there is always one shadow, standing close behind her, her cousin Kesha. For fans of love and hip-hop, Kesha isn't an unknown face. She's infamous. She's the one who doesn't smile for cameras, who doesn't polish her image for sponsors. She's the muscle, the storm that rolls in when Yandy wants to remain calm. Viewers remember the reunion where Kesha burst from the audience to lunge at Samantha, one of Mendeecees' other children's mothers. Back then, Yandy tried to play it down, claiming not to know her, but producers later confirmed what fans suspected. Kesha wasn't just some random woman in the crowd. She was family, blood. Her role was simple but brutal. She was the one who enforced the lines. Yandy didn't want to be seen drawing herself. While Yandy posts curated family photos and carefully built her brand around philanthropy and grace, Kesha is the shadow who makes sure no one crosses the line. Her reputation speaks louder than words, and Atlanta never forgot it. So when the news broke that Tamar woke up battered and broken, the city's whispers fused into one chilling conclusion. Tamar wasn't unlucky. She was handled. And if she was handled, everyone knew who the #1 suspect would be: Kesha. The timing was too tight to ignore. Tamar was last seen with Mendeecees. Hours later, she was bloodied in her own home. And while all this played out, Yandy Smith posted nothing but smiles, family portraits, and polished business updates. To some, it was proof she was uninvolved. To others, it was the silence of a woman who didn't need to say anything, because her cousin's reputation said it for her. The brilliance and danger of Yandy's silence is that she doesn't need to be present. She doesn't need to argue online or release long statements. She doesn't need to show up at your door. All she needs to do is stay quiet, maintain her clean image, and let the shadow of Kesha do the talking. Because Kesha doesn't need proof. She doesn't need to trend. She doesn't even need to post. Her reputation alone is enough to scare someone into silence. And in the aftermath of Tamar's bloody confession, that reputation rang louder than any denial could. Meanwhile, Funky Deneva handled the situation with the kind of recklessness that enraged fans. Instead of protecting Tamar, instead of calming rumors, he made a parody of it. He posted a fake wanted poster of himself, laughing at the possibility that he had spiked her drink, that he had stolen her belongings, that he was somehow the villain. To some, it was classic Funky Deneva humor. To others, it was cold, dismissive, and suspicious. Why would a friend joke about something so violent? Was it guilt hidden behind comedy? Was he protecting someone else? Or was he simply too addicted to his messy persona to act with compassion? Whatever the reason, his laughter did nothing to defend Tamar. It turned her trauma into spectacle and left her dignity in shambles. And then there was Mendeecees Harris, the man who has perfected silence into an art form. He didn't deny, he didn't defend, he didn't reassure his wife. He simply allowed the storm to swirl around him, his muteness becoming its own weapon. In the world of Atlanta gossip, silence is never neutral. It's confirmation. And his refusal to speak let whispers harden into assumptions, and assumptions calcify into truth. By doing nothing, Mendeecees looked guilty, complicit, and untouchable all at once. Imagine the tableau: Tamar Braxton, bloody and broken in her own home, Funky Deneva laughing online, Yandy Smith smiling in her Instagram feed as if her husband's name wasn't burning through every blog, Mendeecees Harris sitting mute in the background, and cousin Kesha not even visible, but present in every whisper. Asterisk every meme, every theory. It sounds like a screenplay. But in Atlanta, it sounds like a Saturday night. By the next morning, Atlanta was buzzing like a hive cracked wide open. News of Tamar Braxton's bloody confession had already escaped the privacy of her walls and exploded across every timeline. Social media didn't pause for details. It didn't wait for statements, it did what it always does. It took fragments and built its own version of the truth. Memes surfaced with terrifying speed. TikTok reenactments showed women stumbling through hallways, dripping fake blood. Twitter threads dissected every grainy photos and rumor. In the middle of it all, 3 names trended harder than breaking news: Tamar Braxton, Mendeecees Harris, and Yandy Smith. Nobody cared what the facts were. They only cared about the story, and the story was already crowned with a villain. Depending on who you asked, that villain was Yandy's cousin Kesha. What made the whispers louder was Tamar's silence. She was never the type to stay quiet. Normally, she is dramatic, unfiltered, quick to jump on Instagram Live or Twitter to set her narrative straight. But this time, she said nothing. No long videos defending herself. No posts clarifying that she had fallen. No interviews begging fans to stop speculating. Just silence. To some, that silence meant guilt. To others, it meant fear. And to nearly everyone, it felt like confirmation that what happened to her wasn't an accident at all. If it had been, wouldn't she be the first to protect her name? Wouldn't she fight for her image? The lack of explanation painted her as trapped. Either too terrified to tell the truth or too ashamed to face it. And while Tamar hid in the shadows of her own silence, Mendeecees Harris did what he has always done best: nothing. His silence is legendary in its own way. When cheating rumors surrounded him years ago, he didn't address them. When drama with his children's mothers took over the storyline, on Love and Hip Hop, he let the women argue while he remained still. When his prison sentence dominated headlines, he allowed Yandy to carry the fight publicly. And now, faced with the scandal of being tied to a bloodied Tamar Braxton, he again chose to disappear behind silence. But this time, fans weren't buying it. His quiet didn't look like dignity or self-control. It looked like guilt. It looked like someone hiding in plain sight. Because if he truly wasn't involved, wouldn't he at least reassure Yandy? Wouldn't he clear the air, defend Tamar, or push back on the rumors? Instead, his silence dragged him deeper into the fire. Then there was Yandy Smith herself. If silence is a weapon, hers is polished into gold. She didn't rant, she didn't clap back, she didn't even offer a vague denial. Instead, she posted photos of her family smiling, updates about her business ventures, messages of positivity, as if the scandal consuming her name didn't exist. To fans who adore her, it looked like grace, refusing to play into negativity. To critics, it looked like arrogance. But to those who know her history, it looked like strategy. Yandy has never needed to fight with her own hands. She has always had something, or rather someone, who does the fighting for her. And that someone is Kesha. Clips from the infamous reunion brawl resurfaced everywhere. The one where Kesha stormed the stage and lunged at Samantha with no hesitation. Old footage replayed again and again with captions like, "History repeats itself." Fans online branded her Yandy's shadow muscle, the cousin who strikes when Yandy doesn't want her own hands dirty. And the more those clips circulated, the more people believed Tamar's bloody face wasn't just bad luck, it was a pattern. If Kesha could charge through a live taping, why wouldn't she pull up in private? If she could fight to protect Yandy's name once, why not again when rumors of Mendeecees and Tamar began to swirl? The logic wasn't neat, but gossip doesn't need neat logic. It only needs belief. Meanwhile, Funky Dineva fanned the flames with his antics. Instead of extinguishing the fire, he turned it into content. His parody wanted poster, his careless humor, his refusal to acknowledge the seriousness of the night, all of it left fans outraged. They couldn't understand how a man who was with Tamar that very night could laugh while she admitted she almost died. To some, it looked like guilt wrapped in comedy, as if he knew more than he wanted to say. To others, it looked like betrayal, proof that he was no true friend at all. Whatever the case, his jokes transformed Tamar's pain into a circus act. And in that circus, she wasn't the star, she was the punchline. Theories multiplied until they drowned out facts. Some swore Kesha pulled up at Tamar's home hours after she and Mendeecees left the lounge together, storming through her door like she stormed the reunion stage. Others said she confronted Tamar inside the club, away from the cameras, and the night spiraled from there. And then there were those who argued she never had to show up at all. Her reputation alone was enough to keep Tamar quiet. Too shaken to explain what really happened, because in Atlanta, people believe one thing above all. If Kesha wants to find you, she will. As more details leaked, the ugliness sharpened. Fans pointed to Tamar's fractured nose, her missing teeth, her desperate texts the next morning asking for a dentist contact. They pointed to her own admission that she couldn't remember anything, and each detail made it harder to believe the story of a simple accident. Each detail pushed the narrative closer to retaliation. Retaliation for what? For stepping too close to Yandy's marriage? For being seen with Mendeecees when the city was already watching him too closely? Or for nothing at all, just because Atlanta thrives on turning shadows into monsters? The truth remained buried under silence, half-truths and gossip. But one thing was clear, this wasn't just a scandal about one night, it had grown into something bigger. Something about loyalty, power, and the cost of crossing the wrong people, in a city that thrives on spectacle. By the second day, the scandal was no longer confined to Atlanta. It had spread everywhere. You couldn't scroll through Instagram without seeing Tamar Braxton's swollen face on a meme. You couldn't open Twitter without seeing hashtags screaming Yandy's revenge. YouTube thumbnails showed bloody recreations and clickbait. captions, while TikTok users stitched together timelines like amateur detectives. The wildest part, none of the people at the center of it all gave the story any clarity. Tamar stayed silent. Mendeecees Harris stayed mute. Yandy Smith posted, polished family smiles. Funky Deneva kept making jokes. And Kesha never showed her face. That refusal to speak didn't kill the scandal, it gave it life. Their silence was gasoline, and the internet was the fire. Every day that Tamar refused to explain, the questions grew darker. If she was attacked by a stranger, why not say it? If it was just an accident, why not defend her own name? If she had nothing to hide, why not stop the speculation before it consumed her? The fact that she stayed so quiet left fans divided. Some saw her as a victim, terrified into silence. Others painted her as reckless, a woman who crossed into another marriage and paid for it with blood. Sympathy battled with blame in every comment section. And the images, the missing teeth, the fractured nose, the bloody sheets were too haunting for anyone to ignore. Mendeecees Harris only made things worse. His silence had always been his shield, but this time, it backfired. Instead of looking strong, it made him look guilty. Fans argued that if he had nothing to do with what happened, he'd at least speak up to clear his own name, or to defend his wife. But he didn't. He let the storm rage while he stayed detached. And that detachment, that cold refusal to protect or reassure, turned him into the man everyone pointed at. Silence wasn't protecting him anymore, it was condemning him. And then there was Yandy Smith, who carried herself like she was above it all. While Tamar bled and trended, while Mendeecees was dragged through the mud, she smiled in her curated posts. Family dinners, business announcements, quotes about positivity. Her refusal to engage was almost eerie. Some fans praised her, saying she was choosing peace over drama. Others saw it as arrogance, a woman so untouchable she didn't even need to defend her marriage. But for those who knew her history, her silence looked calculated. She didn't need to dirty her hands, because she had Kesha's shadow doing the work for her. As long as the internet believed Kesha had pulled up, Yandy's brand remained clean. She didn't have to deny or confirm anything. Her silence made her look more powerful than words ever could. Kesha, meanwhile, didn't post a single thing. She didn't explain. She didn't defend herself. She didn't even acknowledge the whispers. She didn't need to. Her reputation carried more weight than any statement. Fans already knew the reunion brawl. They already remembered her charging at Samantha, and now, they connected those dots to Tamar's bloody morning. Whether she showed up or not didn't even matter anymore. In the court of public opinion, she was guilty by reputation alone. She had become a ghost story, Atlanta told itself. The woman you call when Yandy's image is under attack. The woman who doesn't need proof because her history is enough. The ugliest piece of this puzzle was Funky Deneva. His behavior turned him from bystander to suspect in the eyes of many fans. His parody-wanted poster, his mockery, his refusal to take Tamar's conditions seriously, it made him look complicit. Why joke when your friend has admitted she woke up in a pool of blood? Why laugh when she had teeth knocked out of her mouth? Some believed he was covering for someone. Others believed he was using her trauma to fuel his own platform. Either way, his actions turned Tamar into a punchline, stripping her of dignity when she was already broken. Deeper theories started to spread like wildfire. People pulled up old clips where Tamar admitted she was on PrEP, twisting that confession into an image of recklessness. They pulled up Mendeecees' history with women, painting a picture of chaos and betrayal. They dissected Yandy's curated brand, claiming she had mastered the art of staying clean while others did her dirty work. And at the center of every theory, they placed Kesha as if she were the signature that sealed the letter. It didn't matter if the truth was murky. The internet had already written its own ending. By then, the scandal wasn't just about one night anymore. It had grown into a story about power, about image, about silence. Tamar was painted as messy, reckless, and tragic. Yandy was painted as brilliant and strategic, a woman who never needed to fight because she had others to fight for her. Kesha was painted as unstoppable, the enforcer whose reputation was more feared than her presence. Together, their silence created a narrative, so heavy it didn't matter whether it was true or not, people already believed it. And that's what made it unforgettable. Not the blood, not the missing teeth, not even the whispers about Mendeecees slipping into Tamar's home. What made this scandal last was the silence. Tamar's silence, Mendeecees' silence, Yandy's silence, Kesha's absence. Funky deflection. Silence built the scandal louder than words ever could. Because in Atlanta, silence isn't emptiness. It's strategy. It's confirmation. It's a weapon. So what really happened? Was Tamar attacked by Yandy's cousin? Did Mendeecees cross a line that couldn't be erased? Did Yandy orchestrate quiet revenge? Or was it nothing more than an accident that spiraled because nobody spoke? The truth sits buried under too much fear and too many unanswered questions. And maybe it will never come out. Maybe Tamar will stay ashamed. Maybe Mendeecees will keep his distance. Maybe Yandy will keep smiling for her brand. Maybe Kesha will remain the ghost in every whisper. That's the real tragedy. Because silence not only built this scandal, silence will be what keeps it alive forever. And so the image remains, frozen in the public's mind. Tamar Braxton bloodied and broken. Mendeecees, Harris cold and mute. Yandy Smith, untouchable. Kesha, lurking unseen. And Funky Deneva laughing through it all. A picture of Atlanta's nightlife at its most brutal, its most unforgettable. No matter what the truth may be, one fact is certain: that night will never be remembered as harmless. It will always be remembered as the night silence screamed louder than blood.